Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's episode, well, originally I wanted to cover Tom Pidcock for Stage 4 of the Lula Tour. I covered him in yesterday's video talking about how tactically he looked fantastic on Stage 2. Also, I talked about his tactics on how he should have played Stage 4. So that's why I wanted to cover Stage 4 here, the Lula Tour on Beyond the Coverage. But then I got a little more gift given to me because Jayco Lula is in the race. And if I remind you guys correctly, we go back to the Tour Down Under. That is Jayco Lula's Australian Tour Down Under. That's an incredibly important race. And I called it on Beyond the Coverage and called out Chris Harper and Luke Plappis being kind of knuckleheads. They were basically the first knuckleheads of the 2025 season. I think they had a shot when we're talking about going up Willonga Climb there at the Tour Down Under, where those two riders, Luke Plapp and Chris Harper, had a chance of playing for the victory there at the Tour Down Under. Jonathan Narvaez raced the last part of the climb there, Willonga, perfectly. He won the general classification because Luke Plapp spent too much time on the front and they wasted Chris Harper going early with one lap to go, about 25 kilometers. So they're knuckleheads. So then I watched Stage 4 here of the Lula Tour. Jayco Lula is the team. The Lula Tour means that this is a very important stage race for the Australian team because Lula is, of course, a sponsor of Jayco Lula. So Tour Down Under, they're knuckleheads. Now on Stage 4, can they hold it all together? Or are they going to be knuckleheads again on Stage 4 when we got Tom Pidcock on flying form? Well, let's get into the race, and I'll tell you about how it played out, how I saw it here on Beyond the Coverage. Cameras come on. 70 kilometers ago, we got two teams on the front. It's Q36.5 with Tom Pidcock, race leader. He's riding his guys on the front. They looked magnificent throughout the first three stages here. Now Stage 4, they're in the right position because there's an 8-rider breakaway up the road. They got a little help back there from Jayco Lula. This is the Lula Tour, right? So Jayco Lula's riding the front. Nothing wrong with this. You don't have to ride the front. You can put all the pressure on Q36.5 because there is one rider in the break up there that's about 3.5 minutes down on the general classification. So you could really force Tom Pidcock's team to have to do all the work, but they're going to ride the front because they're Jayco Lula. All right, so they're riding the front. We're coming in at 25 kilometers to go. Alan Hatherley, the mountain biker that rides for Jayco Lula, is going to have a flat tire. He's going to get back on. He's in the cars there for a second. Then we see his teammate, Max Walscheid, come back. They pull back on. We'll call it 3 kilometers later. He's on the back of the group. Things start getting interesting on Stage 4 with about 15 kilometers to go, and it's Q36.5, one of their lead-out sprinter or sprinter himself, Elms Lupin's up there on the front. He's having a little bit of arguing with the guys on the left of him, but Tom Pidcock's in good position. It's a drag race going down the side there. Now the racing has started with 15 kilometers to go. That's because we got an incredibly difficult climb. That's 3 kilometers long. It's going to summit with 8.5K to go. Then it's flat into the finish. If you watched my video yesterday, I said Tom Pidcock needs to solo this climb or at least just have 1 or 2 guys with him. But solo would be best and try to do the 9 kilometers over the top. We'll call it 8.5 here officially to go on the flat roads all the way in the finish. Try to solo win the stage, put more time on the general classification. So Q36.5, have a little more buffer for tomorrow's flatter race here at the Lula Tour, the last and final stage. Okay, we come past 15 kilometers to go. We start seeing that we'll assume Elms Lupin's hair's getting dropped from the group after he was pulling on the front when they were going curb to curb fighting for position. Then we start coming under about 12, 15 kilometers to go. We see Alan Hatherley back there from Jayco Lula still too far back in the peloton. Remember, I already told you, flat at 25, but made it on around 23 kilometers to go, thereabouts. And now he's still at the back of the group. Shortly after this, we get just over 11 kilometers to go in the race, and we start seeing Q36.5 as we see Nicolo coming out the back there, and he's got Muschetti, their sprinter. They're both coming out the back. We'll call that's 3 guys for Q36.5 to be dropping right now. Nothing wrong with this. This is spot on. This is exactly how a team should be dropping off after they've done some work on the front. Tom Pidcock's still up there with Zukowski. He's doing a fine job up there. Then we'll see Frederic Vrizon. He gets dropped just about a K later after his sprinter guys have been dropped. We see Frederic Vrizon drop off. Now we're down to 2 guys with Tom Pidcock, but Zukowski's still on the front. We're coming just under 11 kilometers to go. We'll call it 10.5 thereabouts. And we'll see Total Energies on the front. They're drilling it. We see Tom Pidcock has his teammate up there, Zukowski, with him, but his next teammate that's with him, that's Aspirin, Mikel Aspirin, as he's a little bit further back. At this moment, he's a little bit out of position. He's not at the front, but he's not out of the picture. Zukowski, though, is getting ready to blow because Tom Pidcock's going to come to the front after we watch the peloton exploding at the back. We come to the front. Is Tom Pidcock throwing down? It's 10 kilometers to go. Okay, the British rider's riding magnificent right now. He's got about 1.5 kilometers to go to the summit. And this climb is really difficult, 3 kilometers at about 12% average. And we're talking about some steep sections right here at the Lula Tour as Tom Pidcock's riding the front. We'll see as he takes the front, Zukowski starts to drop, and we see his two teammates as Zukowski's dropping. That's Aspirin, that's still at the very near the back of the peloton there. Will come about 40th position, maybe 30th, but he's far back. Zukowski's dropping, so that means Tom Pidcock only has one rider left. But Tom Pidcock's on the front. Now, tactically at this moment, Tom Pidcock has to get on the front because it's 1.5 kilometers to go. You do not want to go over the top of this climb with 8.5 kilometers to go with a large group that could be attacking you for 8.5 kilometers all the way in the finish, and then start giving Alan Hatherley there a chance to win the sprint and get a little gap and start moving up on the general classification, maybe take the race leader's jersey. And you certainly don't want Rainer Keplinger there from Bahrain Victorious to get a gap or get some time bonuses. So right in the front for Tom Pidcock, he's starting to drill it. We see Eddie Dunbar come from the left side of the peloton there, and he'll bridge up to second wheel there on Tom Pidcock's wheel. Right behind him is Rainier there from Bahrain Victorious. And then shortly after that, we're going to see fourth on the wheel. Well, that right there is going to be Alan from Jayco Lula, the second rider there from the team. Now, Tom Pidcock's starting acceleration. Eddie Dunbar can't hold the wheel. He's opening up the gap. This moment, there's nothing Eddie Dunbar could have done. His legs are falling apart. Tom Pidcock's on flying form. This is what I thought was going to happen when I talked about the strategy yesterday. Tom Pidcock gets a gap. Rainer back there from Bahrain Victorious looks back over his shoulder, and he sees there Alan. Once he sees Alan Hatherley there, he's wondering if Alan Hatherley can close the gap, but Hatherley can't close the gap. Why can't he close the gap? Well, I already gave you a little bit of hint at 25 kilometers ago. He flatted. Got back on at 23, stayed at the back there at around 15 to 12. He's still at the back of the peloton. And if I back the film up just about 10 kilometers to go, once we see Tom Pidcock start the acceleration, look where Alan Hatherley is all the way on the right side of the peloton. This kid's a mountain biker. He's 28 years of age, so he's not young, but he hasn't been racing the road, so he doesn't have a ton of experience to know to follow the best climber in the race. At this moment in the race, you have to be on his wheel. So he's had to bridge up as Tom Pidcock was drilling it to begin with to get up there on fourth wheel. Now, as we fast forward back up there where Rainier's looking back over his shoulder, he's not going to know that Alan Hatherley was in bad position. He could possibly know, but probably doesn't. But he realizes that he's hurting, so he closes the gap. Eddie Dunbar gets dropped off. We got 3 guys in the front. Okay, Tom Pidcock's riding good, solid pace at this moment, but hasn't exploded on the pedals until all of a sudden we start getting just over we'll call it 9.3, 9.5 kilometers to go. All of a sudden, this is when Tom Pidcock's going to work. He throws the acceleration on the pedals, and we see Rainier. Head drops right there. Whenever you see the head drops, unless you pick it up quick, this is a bad sign for the rider. If his head's dropping, his head drops, Tom Pidcock gets the gap, and then we see Rainier look back real quick there at Alan Hatherley. Hatherley can't close the gap either. The gap immediately opens up to Tom Pidcock, who's now going full gas. No doubt his director sportif saying, go, 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 go. You got the gap, Tom. You can win the first stage race of the 25 season for Q36.5. Huge victory here if he can pull out the stage win here at the Lula Tour, because they're wildcard teams. They're going to need selections for the bigger races when they get back to Europe. But right now, Tom Pidcock's just thinking about today's stage for the Lula Tour as he's flying on the pedals. Everybody back there that was on his wheel now have slowed down. Eddie Dunbar's come back on. And this Uno-X Coolset. I've seen Coolset's name before when I'm calling out the butterfly effect and beyond the coverage, and Coolset's a solid rider, but now he's bridged up to make 4 riders chasing 1. That means Tom Pidcock is still in trouble. But Tom Pidcock's making time. Once he summits, he's got 26 seconds on the group of 4 behind as they summit to go across the KOM. The third group back there, that's UAE Team Emirates. That's Ralph Amaika back there, the veteran. We've seen him riding the Tour de France, but he doesn't have that kind of form. That's why he's in the third group. So this group of 4 that's in the second group, they still have a shot at catching the rider in front, Tom Pidcock, because it's 8.5 kilometers to go with a 26-second gap. But the cameras, while I was back there chatting with you guys, the cameras were going back there looking at UAE Team Emirates too. So when they come forward, what happens? Well, Jayco Lula mess up tactics again, and they become a knucklehead again at the second race that I'm calling here the 25 season. Eddie Dunbar's going solo. What are you doing, Eddie Dunbar? You are an experienced rider at 28 years of age. You should have enough experience to know right now that you cannot catch Tom Pidcock solo. And you should have enough experience to know that a group of 4 with 8.5 kilometers to go at the top of the KOM there and a 26-second gap, a group of 4 have a solid chance of catching one rider in front. Instead, Eddie Dunbar is going up the road solo. We look behind. Coolset was riding the front. Then Rainier from Bahrain Victorious jumped. He's trying to close the gap. He's going to close up the gap there to Eddie Dunbar because Eddie Dunbar's legs just aren't as good as Tom Pidcock. So as we see Rainier close the gap from Bahrain Victorious, now we look back there. Who's pulling? Well, it's Jake Olula back there pulling. Alan Hatherley back there. He's pulling with Coolset on his wheel. They'll close up with, we'll call it 6.5 kilometers to go. So they wasted 3 kilometers basically that they could have been bringing back time. When you look at the clock up there, it's almost at 30 seconds now. So it went from 26 almost up to 36. Now, or excuse me, almost up to 30 seconds. So they lost 4 seconds for those 2-3 kilometers of attacking each other from Eddie Dunbar, Jake Olula team. We're at the Lula Tour, right? So now the 4 guys are together. They start working together really smooth. As they're working smooth, we go a couple kilometers, then 3 kilometers into it, and the gaps drop down 10 seconds. We come into 1 kilometer to go. Well, Tom Pidcock knows he's going to win the stage, but he's still losing time on the 4 riders. And now he's going to lose less because the 4 riders start playing a little tactical game, and Eddie Dunbar has to go to the front with about 700, 600 meters to go, pull all the way into the finish. This will allow Alan Hatherley to get maximum time bonus there as he comes in for 2nd on the stage. 3rd on the stage is, of course, going to go to Rainier there. 4th on the stage is going to go to the Uno X rider Coolset, who had a fantastic ride and an intelligent ride getting back up to these guys. But when I show you who won, Tom Pidcock, of course, won with over 12 seconds on the stage, plus the time bonuses. So he buffers his lead to Rainier out to about 29 seconds coming into the last and final stage of tomorrow's Lula Tour. Now, Jake Olula, what were you thinking, Eddie Dunbar? First off, I think there's a legitimate chance that those 4 riders could have easily caught Tom Pidcock up there at the front. Coolset's racing for a top 10 general classification, even a top 5 general classification, and the other 2 riders, Alan, Rainier, are racing for podium positions and a shot at staying as close as they possibly can to Tom Pidcock for the final stage tomorrow, where time bonuses could have came into big time effect. Instead, Eddie Dunbar went up the road, but had he not gone up the road, and let's say they catch Tom Pidcock and you have 5 riders in that front group, these 4 riders, not named Eddie Dunbar, are a threat on the general classification. That means that Tom Pidcock has to watch Rainier very close. He has to watch Alan very close. And then he even has to keep a little bit of an eye on Coolset, which means if Eddie Dunbar had worked in that group before and they catch Tom Pidcock with, let's call it 1.5 kilometers to go, Eddie Dunbar gets a little gap. Tom Pidcock can go, Eddie Dunbar, you're 2 minutes down on the general classification. I can give you the win, and you'll take the 10-second time bonus away from Rainier and your teammate Alan, but you guys will get the stage win. I stay happy because I keep the general classification if my name is Tom Pidcock, and everyone comes out kind of winning here if those 4 had worked together. Even on top of that, Alan and, of course, Rainier are closer on the general classification, which means for tomorrow's final stage with time bonuses, they still are in the game. Now 29 seconds plus back on the GC with Tom Pidcock's Q36.5 teammates riding fantastic. Let me show you who got 7th on the stage. That was Aspirant, his last teammate there, that they are sure were probably just saving him in case Tom Pidcock had some kind of mechanical on the flat section up there where they can save something on general classification. So Q36.5 has raced the last 4 stages fantastic. Jake Olula, you guys hit the knucklehead button, not only here at the Lula Tour, but you hit it at the Tour Down Under too, so you definitely are the knuckleheads of the 25 season so far, considering that both these 2 stage races, you had legitimate chances of winning either individual stages or possibly the general classification when we're talking the Tour Down Under. But you guys have messed up the tactics all over. Gave me a bunch of stuff to talk to you fans, though, watching Beyond the Coverage. Hopefully you guys like my take. Remember, the race season's getting hot and heavy now. They're going to start heading back over to Europe. I'll see you guys at some point in time soon enough for the Butterfly Effect. But right now, it's Beyond the Coverage and maybe some more Chris Horner's Corner. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.